Yesterday, news came out that our old friend Daryl Morey had agreed to step down as GM of the Rockets. Do you remember Daryl Morey and the amount of time that we spent on Daryl Morey when Nothing Personal first started? This is like a year ago. Daryl Morey is the one who sent a tweet in favor of democracy in Hong Kong and of the protesters in Hong Kong. And China and Beijing specifically lost their collective minds. Daryl Morey deleted the tweet. China withdrew from the NBA for all intents and purposes, costing the NBA up to $1 billion. They're claiming $400 million. I think it's closer to $1 billion. We told you that Daryl Morey would not survive as GM of the Rockets no matter what, unless the Rockets won the world championship. And even then, I still thought he'd get fired. Furtada jumped over mountains to let us all know that he was not upset with Daryl Morey. Everything was fine with Daryl Morey. He's behind Daryl Morey. Everything is good with Daryl Morey. He didn't get suspended. He didn't get anything. And I told you on Nothing Personal, it's absolute horse hockey. The reality is that there is no way that the NBA will allow Daryl Morey to continue on after the season with the Rockets. They had to cut a deal with China. Deny it all you want, Adam Silver. You think it's an actual coincidence that they started showing finals games when the Lakers were going to clinch? You think it's a coincidence that China is going to re-engage with the NBA at a time when COVID has overtaken businesses and leagues? The 1-2 punch of CC, China, COVID is too much for the salary cap in the NBA to handle. And all of a sudden, Daryl Morey steps down. And then Morey and Fertitta meet the press, and they decline to answer any questions about China. And they actually stopped the interview when the interviewer asked the only logical question you can ask. Were you fired because of China? I don't want to answer that. Did you step down because of your comments, Ray China? I don't want to answer that. Then why the hell are you doing an interview? All Fertitta would say is we've never had a crossword over China, saying that their relationship's been great the whole time and that he was not leaving because of a disagreement over the team's strategy or direction. Blah, blah, blah. Of course he's not leaving over the team's strategy or direction. He's leaving because he was forced to leave. This is a business you run. The league, the team. You can't be a GM and say the things and tweet the things Morey said without consequence. And I'm not saying I agree. Everyone's got the right to free speech. Everyone's got the right to feel and say the right thing and do the right thing that they feel in their hearts. But when you represent a company, you better be damn sure of what you're saying and understand what the consequences will be. And the consequences were clear from the minute that tweet got deleted. He was done leading a team. But the NBA has a much bigger issue on its hand. And the issue is, how do they come to grips with their reality that they have to do business with China? That they can talk about Black Lives Matter all they want. They can talk about being woke. They can talk about social justice, systemic racism. They can provide a platform to their players and be all high and mighty. But to think that I'm not going to sit here and call them out on the inconsistency as it relates to their dealings with China, you're wrong. I'm going to let you make the decision as a listener or a viewer and decide what is your tipping point. My tipping point is actually very simple. I can't stand the human rights violations that take place in China, and I'm too big to change the way I consume my durable goods, to change the way I buy clothing, to change the way I talk on a phone. I am too big a to do anything other than say I'm against the human rights violations and the genocide that takes place in China. Put your money where your mouth is, Samson. Nope, I don't. I admit it. I admit it. That's all I'm asking. Just acknowledge. Mark Cuban goes on a show. He goes on a podcast with Megan Conway Kelly. Megan, I don't know her name. She has that show that didn't do well on TV, and she switched networks, got paid a ton. Megyn Kelly. Mark Cuban goes on a podcast with Megyn Kelly, and she asks him tough questions about China, and Mark Cuban got caught. Mark Cuban, who is trying to run for president, Mark Cuban, who is very public about the way he's helping people and here domestically, his old player, Delonte West, saving him from drug addiction and homelessness, and then posting about it. The second highest form of charity, the second highest form of tzedakah, the first highest is just to save Delonte West and then not tell anyone. I participate mostly in second tier charity because we did a whole charity during COVID and we told you we were doing it and we did it. The best charity would be to just do it and not even tell you I did it. There are things I do like that where I don't tell people what I do. Although by saying that I do it, I just violated it. Now I'm a pure second tier guy. Oh, I didn't tell you what it is. So I'm like 1.5 tiers. How about that, Coca? So Mark Cuban gets on and acknowledges, listen, I'm more focused on domestic issues. I'm not in favor of human rights violations anywhere, but I got to be very careful because I'm going to say it. And if I'm creating a headline, I am, and I know you're trying to have me create a headline, I'm okay with doing business with China. We have to pick our battles, Cuban said. I wish we could solve all the world's problems. He continued to talk about China in a very careful way because Megyn Kelly kept saying to him, what about the genocide that's happening? The forced abortions? What about the racial cleansing? It sounds like Germany, doesn't it? She didn't say that. I'm saying that. But the amount of money that Mark Cuban makes in China would knock your socks off. We've told you about the billions of dollars that come in revenue in China. We told you about the workers who are there working for nothing so you can buy cheap Nike stuff or cheaper cell phones. We've told you that as much as we want U.S. jobs in the U.S., the fact is we consume goods and items, including me, that are made in China because it saves money that we can then spend on other things like fantasy or gambling or buying better phones or bigger phones or new blazers or whatever it is, extra chargers, whatever you're doing. I want sports owners and teams and leagues just to acknowledge it. You can't have Daryl Morey step down and then say it has nothing to do with how he ran the team, but it also, we're not going to talk about China. You can't have Daryl Morey step down and leave the Rockets and not address the elephant in the room. Now, we did that all the time when I was on the other side. Don't tell us what we have to do. I'll tell you what we're going to do. But now that I'm on this side, I'm going to call you out for it. It's the elephant in the room. And it would go away if it were simply addressed as follows. By whether it's Mark Cuban or Adam Silver or Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, you simply go through the process of the business that you do with China. You talk about the changes that you're trying to make, including conversations you have with your partners in China. You continue to say that while we hope for world peace and we hope for racial tolerance and we fight for it domestically, when it comes to China, it is a very complicated issue because if we step wrong or we say or do the wrong thing, that will have a deleterious impact on all of you here in the US. Salaries will go down. Prices will have to go up because revenue will be down so significantly. The entire economic model that we have here in sports in this country is very much China dependent. So if you're willing to turn your back on that, then be willing to live with the consequences both on and off the court here domestically. Are you willing to? Because the owners are not. So if you're going to be Daryl Morey and you're going to say what you said about China, it's going to cost you your job. If you're going to be Mark Cuban and you're going to go on a show, you have to say that you're okay doing business in China. You have no other choice because you do business in China. And what's the one thing that Mark Cuban and Adam Silver and Fertitta all know? Say it with me. It's just business. It's nothing personal.